I was the childhood friend, the one who had always been there. Amelia was the dazzling new arrival. They say the childhood friend can never compete with the one who suddenly falls from the sky. Amelia had just transferred to our school, and before long the rumors began about how, in an empty stairwell after class, my rebellious childhood friend Marco had bowed his head like a scolded puppy, asking her for forgiveness. Later, when Amelia and I had a small conflict, he coldly declared, "I don't ever want to see Selena at this school again." My parents, afraid of offending Marco's family, immediately transferred me elsewhere. From that moment on, it was as if I had vanished from his world, too afraid to even show my face. But then, on his birthday, he appeared at my door drenched in rain, his expression heavy with sorrow and loneliness, and asked, "Did you forget it's my birthday today?" They say the childhood friend never wins against the newcomer. I used to laugh at that. But sitting in the auditorium, watching Marco gaze at Amelia as she danced with eyes full of tenderness, I believed it. I believed the rumors too that the unruly Marco, the boy who never bowed to anyone, had lowered his head like a timid puppy to apologize to Amelia on that staircase. The words I never had the courage to confess remained locked forever in my heart. When the music ended, I clapped along with everyone else for the girl who shone on stage. Marco stood up, no doubt to find Amelia, while I rose quietly and slipped out of the auditorium. Outside, I lifted my hand to see a tiny pumpkin charm dangling from it, swaying with the breeze. "Selena, this is for you," he had once said. Curious, I had asked, "What is this?" When Marco was 7, he'd watched a telenovela with his aunt and learned what a token of love meant. "I'll give it to Selena," he'd said, "so she can only like me. And I'll always protect her." My eyes burned as I held the charm tightly in my hand. The words of a child are not usually taken seriously, but I had always taken them to heart. Marco, the little tyrant who feared nothing, was the joy and the secret of my youth. Amelia arrived this semester, beautiful and talented in dance, and from the moment she stepped into class, she caused a stir. The girls whispered that she seemed pulled straight out of a school romance novel, quiet, sweet, and destined to capture the heart of the school's resident troublemaker. And, of course, the rebel would change for her. Many boys began chasing her, and someone even joked, "All that's left is for Marco to fall too." Marco had stretched lazily, glanced at the boy, and scoffed. "Her? She's not at my level." See how arrogant he was back then? I never believed he and Amelia were together, because I never saw it with my own eyes, because he never told me. But now I understand. It's time to let him go. It's time to step away from Marco too. We always used to walk home together, but at some point he began finding excuses to make me go alone. He could have just said it outright. I wouldn't have insisted. After all, we were never anything. On Sunday night we returned to school to hand in homework during the evening class. Marco, always the typical rebel, answered the class monitor bluntly, "I didn't do it." Before, Marco used to listen to me. Everyone knew that, so whenever he misbehaved, they would come and tell me. This time it was the same, but they couldn't even find him anymore, because as soon as class ended, he had gone to look for Amelia. Selena, Marco didn't turn in his homework again, and no one knows where he is. I smiled calmly and said, "Give it directly to the teacher. And if Marco doesn't do his homework, don't tell me anymore." They were a little surprised but nodded. After all, the rumors that Marco had a girlfriend seemed true, and seeing my attitude only confirmed it. When class began, I lowered my head and focused on the test. Before Amelia came, I had dreamed of going to North City University together with Marco. Now, I would fight alone to achieve that dream. Marco didn't appear for the entire night class. The teacher frowned from the podium and asked where he was. Everyone looked at me, but I never raised my head once. In the second hour, Marco finally returned from outside. He sat without a word until someone told him the head teacher was calling. Only then did he react. As he passed by me, he paused for a moment, but I didn't look at him. I was focused on solving the last math problem. I could always do the first part, but when I reached the second, I froze. Still, I managed to finish it. My desk mate leaned toward me cautiously and asked what had happened with Marco. Nothing. Really? But before, when he skipped homework or class, you were always the one most worried. She clearly didn't believe me. I stayed silent for a moment, then replied, "That was before. I won't take care of him anymore." Ah, she covered her mouth in surprise. So, it's true Marco's girlfriend is Amelia. I lowered my gaze and said nothing. When the bell rang for the second evening class, Marco walked back in slowly. Not long after, I received a folded note. After class, leave first. I read it indifferently, put it away, and continued writing. At the end of the day, the classroom was as noisy as ever. I quietly packed my things. Suddenly, everything fell silent. My desk mate gasped and covered her mouth. I followed her gaze. Amelia was standing at the door. She tilted her head with a smile, beckoned Marco with a finger, and then left. Against my will, I glanced at Marco. He smiled helplessly and followed her out. The room erupted in whispers and chatter. No way, it's true. Before I thought Marco and Selena made a good pair, the bad boy and the studious girl. But now the rebel with the dancer, they fit better. Don't be fickle. Am I the only one who feels sorry for Selena? They grew up together, you know. As they said, the childhood friend never wins against the newcomer. My desk mate pressed her lips together as if wanting to comfort me. I slung my backpack over my shoulder. My heart ached. I felt shattered, but I forced a smile. I couldn't cry. I couldn't let anyone see how broken I was, or tomorrow it would be the gossip of the playground. I'm fine. Marco and I were always just friends. I'm going. See you tomorrow. She still looked worried but waved. See you. Take care on the way home. Leaving the noisy school behind, I gripped the straps of my backpack and clenched my teeth. But I couldn't stop the tears from falling. My chest felt tight, aching like never before. How could he have fallen for someone else so suddenly? Through the blur of my tears, I could still hear the arrogant boy who once promised me, "I can handle anything. Selena is the girl I'll protect for life." Chapter 3. Selena, why didn't you wait for me this morning? Marco came in late. After class, he walked up to me with reproach in his voice and placed a bottle of milk on my desk. My hand froze in the air as I was jotting down vocabulary. Out of the corner of my eye, I glanced at the bottle. I already had breakfast. And from now on, I won't be going to school with you. I've been arriving much earlier. Marco sat beside me, looking puzzled. Resting his chin in his hand, he stared at me. I haven't done anything to upset you lately, right? We always went together, didn't we? It doesn't feel the same anymore. I put down my pen, took a deep breath, and gave a faint smile. You have a girlfriend. We should keep some distance. His expression froze for a moment, then he reacted. She doesn't mind. She knows that, but I do mind. I cut him off, speaking each word carefully. I don't want to end up being blamed if something ever goes wrong between you two. Selena, Marco was known for his bad temper and impatience, and the fact that he was even talking this much to me meant he was already running out of patience. His face hardened, cold and unyielding. He stood abruptly, his chair screeching against the floor, and snapped, "Suit yourself." I bowed my head and closed my eyes in silence. That night I sat on the balcony with the wind on my face, wondering, should I keep pretending like a fool that I didn't care, just to stay by his side? Or should I accept that all the affection from our childhood ended here? They say the eyes of someone in love can never lie, and if I continued lingering around him, it wouldn't be fair to me or to Amelia. No girlfriend wants another girl hovering too close to her boyfriend. From that day forward, Marco never spoke to me again. Even when we passed in the hallways, he walked by as if I didn't exist. The girl who used to always be by his side had been replaced by Amelia. Marco introduced Amelia to all his friends. She was his first love, the girl he truly liked. I studied quietly like everyone else, listening to stories about their romance through whispers. Once, Amelia suffered a stomachache from practicing dance without dinner, and the next day Marco showed up with a low-fat meal prepared by his personal nutritionist. Another time, An athletic boy from a neighboring school tried to confess to Amelia after class, and rumor had it Marco beat him badly. In this month's exam, I returned to the top of the class. One teacher told me not to worry about Marco, that it would only harm my studies. Marco's family was wealthy. Grades didn't matter to him. After class, I leaned my head against my hand and gazed at the sunset outside the window. Selena, which university do you want to go to? One hot afternoon, Marco sat beside me, absent-mindedly twirling a strand of my hair. Without hesitation, I answered, North City University. That far. I never told him that it wasn't just because it was one of the best universities, but because I wanted to escape. Escape this place. Escape my home. My father, like many rich men, had changed. My mother refused to divorce him, blaming herself for not giving him a son, believing that was why he had other women. At night, when everything was silent, she would break down, pointing at me and sobbing. Why weren't you a boy? If you were, your father wouldn't betray me. In the end, he did have a son. For a while, he came back home. But after my little brother was born, my mother gave him all her attention. She thought she finally had someone to rely on, a son who would take care of her in old age. Then I'll go to North City University too, Marco had said arrogantly. You're so dumb, without me you'd be lost. That boastful boy in front of me was the only light in my broken days, and I desperately wanted to cling to that light. That's why I was willing to waste all my time on him, even if I never managed to enter North City University myself. As long as I went to the same university as him, it would be enough. Chapter 4. A rumor began spreading through the school that Amelia was the other woman, the one who had come between Marco and me. Ava and I were returning from the bathroom when we saw Amelia run past us, tears streaming as she covered her mouth. Before I could react, Marco appeared before me and grabbed me by the neck, as if to strangle me. Selena, weren't you the one who said you'd stay away from me? And now what the hell are you doing? I couldn't breathe. His hand clamped down tight. Ava frantically tried to pull him away. Are you insane? We just came from the bathroom. Let her go. She can't breathe. Marco suddenly released me. I collapsed, gasping desperately as if life had just been forced back into my lungs. You disgust me, Selena. Are you okay? Ava asked, panic in her voice. I bent over, coughing uncontrollably, tears streaming despite myself. Ava hugged me, patting my back gently. It's going to be okay, Selena. Marco and his girlfriend must be out of their minds. I wiped my tears, biting down hard to keep from sobbing. The way Marco had looked at me with such hatred, I didn't recognize him anymore. It was as if he truly wanted to kill me. The boy I remembered no longer existed. He was gone forever. Later, a classmate slipped a phone to me under the desk. On the school's anonymous message board, someone had posted an accusation against Amelia, claiming she was the one who destroyed my relationship with Marco. Many believed it. The comments were vicious, insulting her mercilessly. I looked at the red marks on my neck and thought, after class I'll post the truth. I'll clear her name. But I never got the chance. When I arrived home, my parents were waiting on the sofa with dark expressions. I knew instantly something was wrong. The moment I stepped into the living room, a glass flew toward me, shattering at my feet. What did you do at school to anger Marco? My father roared, slamming the table. Do you know our company relies on cooperation with his family? Do you want to ruin your father? I stood frozen as my mother unleashed her poisonous tongue, calling me useless, a burden. My father ordered me to go and apologize to Marco. That cold, luxurious house froze me to my core. I trembled all over. I don't even remember how that scene ended, or how I was taken to his house. All I wanted to say was, that post wasn't mine. But I'll clear it up, I promise. Yet when the door opened and he looked down at me with that icy expression, I couldn't say a word. I lowered my head and apologized. He only leaned against the doorframe and said indifferently, I don't want to see you at school again, Selena. My parents bowed and scraped, swearing I wouldn't get in his way again. Like a lifeless puppet, I finally raised my head, Under the cold white light, I could no longer even make out his face. In that instant, my dignity was crushed and buried. That was when I finally understood Marco and I were never from the same world. We were never equals, neither in love nor in life. The moon does not descend simply because someone wishes for it. What falls into the well is only its reflection and illusion. All the good that this so-called prince once showed me had been nothing more than a passing whim. I never should have let myself hope. From the very beginning, it had all been a mistake. That night, I packed my things and my parents made arrangements to transfer me to another school. Chapter 5. Nearly 2 weeks had passed since I changed schools. I rented a small apartment near campus. My parents, afraid Marco would be angered by the sight of me, decided it was better if I didn't return home. Though we were in the same city, one east, one west, as long as we didn't seek each other out, we would never meet. "Hey, Selena, are you coming to watch me play today?" The boy speaking wore a black and white basketball jersey, his fox-like eyes gleaming with a carefree smile. When I arrived, a girl from class had already warned me. His name is Elias. He's gorgeous and a complete jerk. The others pretended to stay focused on their own things, but I noticed more than a few sideways glances thrown our way. I'd lost count of how many times Elias had come to talk to me. They said it was the first time he had ever seriously pursued a girl, and that he'd already been at it for weeks. At our age, it's inevitable to dream of a school romance happening to you, or at least to someone close by. They called Elias a reformed bad boy. But even a reformed bad boy is still dirty. I shook my head gently. Pass. I have homework to do. He eyed the notebook on my desk and raised a brow. Selena, do you know I've been chasing after you for 2 weeks already? He gave a low laugh. So, why do you keep rejecting me? By then, nearly the entire classroom had emptied out. Outside, the sunset painted the sky in shades of orange and gold. Suddenly, I recalled something I had once read: evening breezes are free. So is the sunset. And I am one of a kind. Selena, he said, you always have that contradictory air about you. The referee's whistle from the court cut through the moment. I looked at him, and he smiled faintly, a mix of resignation and something fierce. That's why you intrigue me. I stared back coldly and reminded him. Your game's about to start. You're playing against lynching no one today. His voice was low and rough, hinting at something more, though no one else seemed to notice. I lowered my eyes back to my notebook. He clicked his tongue in boredom and left. When his figure finally disappeared, I glanced up at the wall clock. The anonymous confession board post, I had a suspicion of who had written it. But what did that person gain by doing so? At this new school, things were different. At 6:30, the power to the classrooms was cut. When the lights went out, only the glow of the sunset remained outside. I packed my books, slung my backpack, and went down the stairs. The warm evening breeze shook blossoms loose from the apple trees. They fell, opened, and were carried away again by the wind. I stood there blinking, watching. These few years of my life felt like those petals, fragile, powerless. Hey, isn't that Selena? The voice pulled me back. Just as I was about to step forward, 2 familiar faces blocked my path. They looked surprised to see me. Back when I was always with Marco, I had known his friends well. We had gotten along relatively fine. They each held water bottles, probably just back from the kiosk. Selena, did you really transfer here? I looked at them, not quite understanding what that really was supposed to mean, and simply nodded. One nudged the other. Selena, you and Marco grew up together. He's here today too. Maybe you could take the chance to clear things up. Everyone said I wasn't capable of something like that. But Marco, the boy who had grown up with me, had been the first to believe I was guilty. I didn't. Before I could finish, his cold voice cut in from nearby. Does it take that long to buy water? Or are you still wasting time talking to people who have nothing to do with us? He was standing a few meters away, gaze sharp and shadowed, looking at me as though I were a stranger. His friends exchanged uneasy glances and stepped back. I forced a polite smile. I'm leaving. Goodbye. Yeah, goodbye. Chapter 6. Days at fourth high school passed quietly. Time moved slowly. Sometimes I got lost in my own thoughts. I couldn't understand why no one seemed to like me. I was excellent. My name was always on the honor roll. When I was little, my mother used to tell me, children with good grades are loved by everyone. But as I grew older, I realized the teachers liked students with good grades. Other people didn't. I studied in silence, waited for exams, waited for university entrance. I no longer waited for anyone else. My grades soared higher and higher. In the recent joint exam of 100 schools, I placed first. Standing on the podium, the warm summer wind lifted my hair and stirred my uniform. Looking down, I saw the rows of students in their blue and white uniforms, their eyes filled with admiration and envy. The principal spoke into the microphone, showering me with words of praise. Outside the window, vines climbed the trees, cicadas screeched louder than ever, and the sunset burned red across the sky. In the hallway of the senior students, the voices of study grew more intense. Everyone wished they could freeze time just a little longer. I never saw Marco again. I cut all ties with my old friends. But thinking about it, those friends had only ever been Marco's friends, not mine. When summer break began, I didn't return to that house. It was too close to Marco's. From the very first day at fourth high, my parents had only repeated one thing. Don't let Marco see you. If you do, stay away. This year, I turned 17. Next semester, I would be in my final year. My parents never cared whether I felt anxious. They never worried about me. Beneath the dim glow of a street lamp, I sat on a bench, reviewing an English essay. But it didn't matter. Every formula I memorized, every word I learned, every poem, every problem, each one would carry me away from here, toward a brighter, more dignified future. People walked past me one after another. No one stopped for anyone. Chapter 7. That afternoon, as I left the library, my phone rang. I answered silence. Frowning, I glanced at the screen. An unknown number. Hello. I tried, but nothing. Without hesitation, I hung up. Selena. Elias came out of the gym across the street, waving. Let's grab dinner. I held my books in my arms and looked past him. His friends were urging him along. I'm taking food home, I said. Go with your friends. Oh, come on. You always eat takeout. That's not healthy. He caught my wrist. Let me treat you to something nice. Before I could refuse, he was already dragging me along. He took me to a French restaurant. Inside, people wore suits and formal dresses. Even the waiters were dressed impeccably. And us. Me, in a loose white t-shirt and denim shorts. Him, in his red and white basketball uniform. We clearly didn't fit in. I tugged at his arm, worried. Are you sure we should be here dressed like this? He blinked, puzzled. Isn't it just a place to eat? He said it so naturally that for a moment it almost made sense. Before I could respond, a waiter approached, smiling. Table for two? Elias nodded. This way, please. The waiter guided us kindly to a table by the window. Would you like to enjoy the view? Elias tilted his chin toward me. I checked the time, just past 6. Surely the sunset was still there. I nodded faintly. He smiled. Perfect. He pressed something, and suddenly a warm golden light filtered through the dark glass of the window. My mouth fell open in surprise. It was like magic. By the time I came to my senses, the waiter was gone. Elias handed me the menu. What do you feel like? The prices weren't cheap. I hesitated. He chuckled mockingly. Afraid you'll ruin me? Half his face was lit by the sun, his eyes sparkling like they held stars. I answered honestly. Everything looks a little expensive. Don't worry. I can afford this. Order whatever you want. I gave the menu back. You choose. I'm not picky. He smiled. Good. That makes treating you easier. How do you like your steak? Not rare. He thought for a moment. Too well done isn't tasty either. Medium then? That's fine. After ordering, I pointed to myself. Guess what I look like right now? He sipped some water, lips curving. What? Grandma Lou stepping into the Grand View Garden. He burst into laughter. When Elias laughed, two small dimples appeared. He looked warm, like sunlight. Seeing him like that suddenly made me think of Marco. I hadn't thought of him in a long time. He had a dimple too, though he rarely smiled. Most of the time, he only curved his lips slightly. Back then, I used to point it out and tell him, "You should smile more. You look so cute when you do." After Amelia arrived, Marco started smiling more, sometimes sweetly, sometimes tenderly. Thinking back now, there's a saying that feels like a universal truth. He just never smiled with me. Dinner unfolded beneath a golden sunset. By the time we left, it was night. The plaza outside was crowded with people. "Selena, I had a great time today." I looked at him. He smiled back at me. "It's my birthday." "What?" I stared in disbelief. "Today is your birthday? Then I should have been the one treating you. Why didn't you tell me?" He sighed dramatically, looking like a victim. "I was afraid if I told you, you wouldn't come." "That wouldn't have happened," I said softly. A few seconds passed. I began to think about what gift to give him. Suddenly, I felt his warm breath close to my face. He had leaned in, so near. In a low, rough voice he asked, "Are you thinking about what to give me?" Just a few days ago, he had dyed his hair golden blonde, and someone had posted it on the school wall to mock him. Now the wind ruffled it, making him look like a golden retriever. I want that little scented pouch from before. That day he had come to find me. As I was packing my things, the pouch had fallen from my bag. He picked it up, shook it, and asked, "Will you give this to me, Selena?" I had said no, because that pouch had been a handmade birthday gift for Marco, stitched carefully, thread by thread. Even if Marco would never receive it, I couldn't give it to Elias. It would feel like handing him something discarded. But this time, I nodded firmly.
"All right.
But you'll have to wait a few days. I'll make you a new one." On the way home, Elias asked me for the first time, "Selena, what university do you want to go to?" I lifted my eyes to the scattered stars. "North City University."
Why?
Because I don't like this place. It never snows here. I want to see the snow." Elias lowered his head, thoughtful, then simply nodded. We slowly reached my building. He stopped at the entrance.
"Go on. Bye."
I walked a few steps, then turned back. He was standing in the shadows in his basketball uniform, a faint smile on his lips, but his eyes dim. My heart trembled. I raised my hand. "Elias, happy birthday." He raised his too, smiling back. "Selena, you really will get into North City University." Chapter 8. I always thought Elias and I had all the time in the world. Even so, I wanted to finish the scented pouch quickly and give it to him in person. I didn't know if he liked the scent of wormwood, so I bought other fragrant dried flowers too. I embroidered 2 designs, a red lion for luck and a blue dragon as protective charms. When I finished and tied them off, sunlight streamed gently through the window. I imagined how Elias would react when he saw them. I got off the bus and ran straight to his neighborhood, unable to wait. But when I arrived, I saw workers hauling furniture out nonstop. My body froze. My heart sank. Slowly, I approached a girl nearby and asked softly, "Excuse me, the boy who lived here?" "Oh, he moved out. I think a few days ago." "I see, thank you." I nodded like a robot and turned away. I sat on a bench, taking a long time to process the fact that Elias was gone. Why did he leave without saying anything? Weren't we friends? My vision blurred. The small pouch in my hand felt as heavy as the whole world. Why is it that every time I finally get used to someone, they end up leaving just like everyone else? With a serious face, I wiped my tears, tossed the gift into the trash, and walked away. That night it poured with rain. I looked out the window, phone in hand, Elias's number glowing on the screen, but I didn't dare call. And if he answered, what would I say? Ask him why he left without a word? Maybe to him, I was just another girl he tried to conquer on a whim, not even worth a goodbye. Suddenly, it all felt like a joke, stumbling over the same stone again and again, never learning the lesson. A knock at the door jolted me from my thoughts. I opened it and there stood Marco, drenched, completely shattered. He looked at me with sadness and defeat. Did you forget today is my birthday? If this had been before, would I have forgiven him? I don't know. But the person I was now had sadly discovered she felt nothing for him anymore. And in that moment, I remembered a saying, when you can stand before someone and feel neither love nor hate, that is when it has truly ended. Marco's eyes were red. Selena, it's my birthday. You said you'd always be there for my birthday. I was exhausted. Happy birthday. That's it?
Just that?
I'm sorry, Selena. Are you still mad at me? Suddenly, he grabbed my hand and slapped himself with it. I frowned. The force hurt me too. My palms stung. He tried to use my hand again to strike the other side of his face, but I yanked away, teeth clenched. If you want to put on a show, do it at your own house. Don't come here to lose your mind. Marco's skin was pale, the mark of my hand stark on his face. I didn't care if it hurt him. I only worried it would get me into trouble later. He opened his mouth, but the rain drowned his voice. When he spoke, it was bitter. Selena, I was wrong.
I don't know what came over me that day.
When I wanted to fix things, you had already transferred schools. I went to 4th High to find you, but I saw a boy talking with you by the window. Rage filled me. What I said that day wasn't what I meant. Forget it. I sighed. Weariness washing over me. Marco's face went pale in shock. I let out a dry laugh. The confession wall, Marco, with your resources, finding out who posted it wouldn't be hard. As soon as I said it, he lowered his head in pain. So you did know. We grew up together. You know I would never do something so vile. Marco, it's not that you didn't believe me. It's that you chose to believe I was guilty. Amelia wants everyone to know she's your girlfriend. She wants you to cut me off completely, wants the whole world to see that the girl who fell from the sky matters more than the one who grew up with you. And you allowed all her slander and tantrums. I looked at him coldly, unmoved by the pain etched on his face. From the very beginning, you had already made your choice. So, why come back now? Selena, I'm sorry. He reached out to grab me. I stepped back. I was truly wrong. At that moment, I didn't even know what I was doing. It was only after you left that I realized I couldn't live without you. I miss you, Selena. I miss you so much. Since you've been gone, I think of you every single day. I went to 4th High, waited outside, but never found you. I didn't see you anywhere, Selena. Tears streamed down Marco's face as he repeated his apologies over and over. I bowed my head, drained. The boy who once walked beside me through so many of my teenage years had turned into someone detestable. The Marco of before would never have treated me this way. He was no longer the boy who once draped his coat over me in the rain, who stood tall and said, Selena, I'm here. That boy had long since vanished. And he would never come back. Marco, Amelia's voice came from not far away, choked with sobs. He didn't even turn. Suddenly, she began to cry harder, pleading, Selena, Marco is all I have. Please don't take him from me. I'm begging you. She was a dancer. Years of strict dieting leaving her pale and fragile, and crying only made her look more pitiful. Shut up. I told you we're over.
Get lost.
Marco roared in fury. What did I do wrong? Amelia sobbed. Tell me, please. I love you. I don't want to break up. I couldn't bear to watch the pathetic drama of chasing and rejecting any longer, so I simply closed the door. Chapter 9. I wanted nothing to do with their love story, much less be involved in it. September arrived. I was officially in my final year of high school. As the head teacher had said, nothing mattered now except the entrance exam. I had only one goal to get into North City University. Later, Ava sent me some gossip. It turned out all of Amelia's awards as a dance champion were fake fabricated. Even in the university arts entrance exam, she bribed the judges. Every student who competed had endured pain, wiped away tears, shed sweat, and still pushed forward with clenched teeth. And then someone like her appeared. Who wouldn't be furious? So many candidates, so few opportunities. It exploded on social media. With her pure little girl face, Amelia had gained some fame. But now it all came crashing down on her. In the end, her results were voided. She was ruined, left with nothing. She clung to Marco like he was all she had left, but he couldn't take it anymore. His parents transferred him to another school so Amelia couldn't find him. Now, on the confession wall, everyone said the more they had idolized them before, the more ashamed they felt now. I read it all like watching a farce. I poured myself completely into studying. The countdown posters grew thinner and thinner. Everyone wanted to stretch time to hold on a little longer. So many subjects to master, and another monthly exam just around the corner. Many times I saw Marco standing outside the school building, silent, waiting for a while before leaving. And then June came, the cicadas fell silent. The entrance exam arrived. That day, rain poured down in sheets. I remember the math section was brutal. By the fifth multiple-choice question, my palms were sweating, and cold ran down my forehead. Leaving the exam, I thought I'm doomed. The stairwell buzzed with complaints. Some couldn't take it and broke down crying. It was so hard. I'm going to die. But time never stops. And exams never get easier just because you complain. The last subject was biology. I carefully reviewed everything one last time, then closed my pen. Outside, everything was green, while inside the classroom there was absolute silence. A signal rang. 5 minutes left. My high school youth was ending right there. I walked out of the classroom, out of the building. I looked back at this school where I had only spent a year and a half, and emotion washed over me. I smiled and bid farewell to my adolescence. Goodbye, fourth high. Goodbye, youth at 18. No one stays 18 forever. But there will always be someone who is. Chapter 10. After the exam, I didn't return home. I went straight with Ava to Chingcheng for a summer job. Every few days, calls from Lincheng came through. I hung up on them all. People don't get lost because they failed to hold hands, but because they let themselves be dazzled by flowers along the road. The day results came out, mine was blocked at first. Then a message from the provincial education office arrived. I couldn't hold back. Covering my mouth, I broke into tears. I had achieved the highest score in the province, 713 points. I hadn't wasted those 3 years. Every step I had taken was worth it. After that, more people came looking for me. Among them my parents. I saw them smiling before cameras, bragging about their wonderful parenting, how they had raised such a brilliant daughter. Ava, hands on her hips, fumed. What nerve! When did they ever raise you? I just gazed silently at the horizon. Later, reporters found me. With a calm smile, I told the true then unfaithful father, a biased mother, a broken home, and a girl who didn't believe in destiny but never gave up. In this age of social media, my interview went viral. Many pitied me. Many more admired my strength. Later, I changed my number. With a full scholarship and prizes, I had more than enough to live peacefully through 4 years of university. Chapter 11. On the second morning of the semester, it was the opening ceremony for military training. My roommates and I rushed to the sports field. There were so many people we couldn't find our class. I stood there scratching my head, completely lost. Suddenly, a clear male voice sounded behind me. Comrade. I froze for a moment. Turning around, I saw that familiar face, backlit by the sun. He lowered his head slightly and said, "It's been a long time." That day, after the ceremony, I dragged my roommate straight to the cafeteria. That night, Elias intercepted me outside the dormitory. Looking at my curious roommates, he said, "Can I borrow her for a moment?" "Thanks." I didn't want to talk to him and tried to follow the others, but he caught my wrist. Even a death sentence deserves the right to defense, doesn't it? With a serious face, I let him pull me aside. "Sorry," he said softly. I didn't want to leave without saying anything. He lowered his head. "My family lives in North City. We had a terrible fight, so I left for Lincheng." The reason I left so suddenly was that my grandmother fell gravely ill. In that house, she's the only one who loves me. I know it sounds like a cliché novel, but when I returned to North City, my phone was stolen. I was busy taking care of her, and by the time I got my number back, you had already blocked me. I went back to Lincheng, but you were in your final year. I was afraid of affecting your focus, so I stayed away. I swear, I'm not lying. Everything I said is true. The girls passing by the dorm kept sneaking glances, and when our eyes met, they quickly turned away. I stared at the shadows on the ground, my mind in knots. In the end, I only nodded.
All right.
I understand. I didn't know what I felt.
Angry?
Not anymore. Happy? Not that either. I just wanted to escape. If there's nothing else, I'll go. But just as I was about to leave, Elias pulled me into his arms. His voice was low. I like you, Selena. I'm not some reformed playboy. I'm not stained. I've never had a girlfriend. There was a girl who chased me for a long time, but I never accepted her. All those rumors about me changing girlfriends like shirts were lies she spread. His warm hand rested at my waist, his voice turning gentle again. Will you be my girlfriend? That night I didn't answer. I just ran. Chapter 12. After military training, Elias was at the East Campus studying computer science, and I was at the West Campus in law. He was handsome since the very first day of classes. His face had flooded the confession wall. One day someone couldn't take it anymore and posted, "At all the girls swooning over Elias from computer science, give it up already. Look at this picture." I'm also in law, same class as his girlfriend. He comes to nearly every class with her. Super sweet. It's over, girls. Move on. The photo showed Elias looking at me like a scolded puppy while I sat by the window with a serious face. In truth, I had only told him not to come to my classes anymore. After that post, everyone said Elias was like a submissive husband, docile and bashful. Marco also tried to get into a university in North City, but didn't reach the score. On Christmas Day, as I reached the campus gate, I realized I had forgotten my phone in the dorm. When I went back, Marco was there. His eyes lit up when he saw me. "Selena, I finally found you." I frowned and tried to leave. He wore the coat and scarf I had given him long ago. Refusing to give up, he said, "It's Christmas. Have dinner with me." "Shouldn't you ask the girl's boyfriend before inviting her?" Elias appeared, stepping between us. Marco clenched his fists, his face pale. "Is it true, Selena?" "Yes," I said firmly. "I have a boyfriend. Don't look for me again." He shook his head, dazed, eyes reddening. "But you once said you'd marry me." "It was me who lost you, Selena." Elias stepped forward with a cold expression and grabbed Marco by the collar. "Yes. Thank you for never knowing how to cherish her. Now get out." Marco collapsed to the ground as if all his strength had left him. Elias took my hand, and we walked past him. "Selena, I'm sorry," Marco whispered. Chapter 13. My family's company had always depended on Marco's family. Not long after he returned home, my parents came to North City to find me. They wanted me to go back to Marco. I stared at them in disbelief. What kind of parents could say something so cruel? With red eyes, I shouted, "You never loved me. Then why did you bring me into this world?" My mother pointed at my forehead and shrieked, "If that damn doctor hadn't made us believe you were a boy, you wouldn't even have been born." A deafening buzz filled my ears, and I stumbled back. They looked like beasts ready to tear me apart. Then Elias appeared, wrapped me in his arms, and covered my ears. "Don't listen to their nonsense," he whispered. In the end, my family went bankrupt. Marco still expected me to beg him, but that was the last thing I would ever do. What he didn't know was that I had given him an even bigger gift. Amelia had been searching for Marco for years. That night, Marco sent me the location of his hotel and the room number. I simply forwarded it to Amelia. Let those lovers of the past reunite. The next day, Amelia showed up at Marco's company, pregnant, screaming that he had to take responsibility or she would accuse him of rape. The ironic part? Amelia had an obsessed stalker who had paid her way for years. That man eventually found Marco and stabbed him, leaving him with grave injuries and without a spleen.
And Amelia?
She ended up in a coma, beaten into unconsciousness by her own deranged pursuer. It was a hot topic online and in the local news. As for me, I had already said my future would be bright. Let them rot in the mud. Selena, didn't you say you'd make me a scented pouch? So much time has passed, and still nothing. Elias never stopped pestering me about it. Because of what had happened before, I hadn't wanted to make one for him. Yet he kept insisting. Finally, I sighed and pulled out one shaped like a lucky charm. Here. Elias lit up like a child with candy ecstatic, didn't even begin to describe it. Years later, I wrote the final line in my book. My husband, his arrival was the redemption of my life. Chapter 14. Elias's point of view. Once, I read in a book that calling someone by their full name is like whispering a love confession. But I don't think Selena ever understood it that way. It doesn't matter. Later, when I stumbled across her scented pouch, I remember the pouches are only given to the one you love. I wanted one. She hadn't wanted to give it to me. When she finally agreed to make me one, God knows how happy I was. But life played another cruel trick. I lost it again. This time, though, I have her asleep by my side, and I can't resist kissing her gently. This time, I didn't let her slip away.